Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to Chronically Well Club Radio. I am your host. My name is Rebecca Naylor, and I am currently celebrating 20 years of living with multiple sclerosis in remission. I want to start tonight's episode by thanking you, my listener, for taking the time to listen to this, because time is precious, and by listening to this, you are essentially prioritizing your health, your self-care, and your well-being by being open and receptive to new ideas that might benefit you and your health. So thank you and congratulations. Congratulations for taking the time to do that. So a little bit about me before we get started, me and Chronically Well Club. So I am a teacher by trade and transitioned this year into working as a health coach, specifically for people in the MS community. And I decided to do this after living with MS in remission myself for 20 years, with a lot of hard work, but really focusing on taking responsibility and natural healing. So a lot of people were asking me, what did you do? How do I follow in your footsteps? And so I decided to create Chronically Well Club to share, to serve my community, you, and to teach other people, to teach you how to discover your power to heal and to really be able to recreate your life. As I was trying to figure out how to do this and how to explain what exactly I have done, I've created something called the 9 Keys of Healing. These are essentially the 9 different areas of lifestyle, that I think are completely within our control, and that we are able to take responsibility for actively choosing to improve and change. So the 9 different areas are diet, toxins, movement, emotions, environment, community, cognition, gut, and mindset. So in each of my episodes, I'm going to be talking sometimes just about one of these ideas, sometimes about many. And they're really intertwined. They're really connected. So you'll see a lot of links between these 9 keys of healing. The topic of today's episode is semantics. Semantics. So what are semantics? Well, semantics is basically a word that describes the study of language or linguistics. And when we say in casual conversation, oh, it's just a matter of semantics, it basically means word choice. It means that you can use many different words to say the same thing, and that the specific words that we choose, they all have different energies, different meanings. They have a different effect in our lives. So it's important to be conscious of our own semantics, of our own choices of words and how we use the English language. The words that we choose are important. Now, I'm not just talking about the words that you speak out loud. I'm also talking about your inner voice. I'm talking about that ongoing kind of dialogue, monologue, whatever it is for you, that we have ongoing inside of our minds. It's commonly referred to as self-talk these days. And our self-talk has a huge impact on our lives. So a little bit of background. So you have a conscious self and you have a subconscious self. And estimates are that like 80 to 90% of our mind is actually subconscious. Sub meaning below, conscious meaning awareness. So subconscious is below the level of our awareness. So a lot of the work that our mind does are things that we're actually not really aware of. They're just instincts or they're impulses or they're responding to our self-talk in ways that we might not even be aware of. And I've heard it said that our subconscious is kind of like a 4-year-old in that they take things very, very literally. They need things to be explained very explicitly. And they pretty much always say yes. They say yes to anything, any action that you give to your subconscious through your self-talk. So not understanding this basically does not excuse you from it. Whether or not you believe this or understand it, it's happening, okay? So when you tell yourself things over and over and over again, that's what shows up in your life. If you tell yourself constantly, I feel sad, I feel sad, I feel sad, I feel sad. If you keep repeating that, you will begin to feel sad, okay? So that's an example of that happening. The subconscious also doesn't understand things like don't, right? So if we're constantly saying, for example, with our walking, as people with MS, we often have things like drop foot and we trip. So if you're walking around all the time going, don't trip, don't fall, don't trip, don't fall, subconscious doesn't understand don't. So subconscious just says trip, fall, okay. And so you trip and fall because what you focus on expands. That's the power of semantics, right? So instead of thinking don't trip, don't fall, we need to think things like what we do want to happen. So we do need to think, I'm in control of my body, I walk easily and gracefully, right? These are examples of the things we can say to ourselves, but we're going to talk more about how to do that later. So I started thinking, I always think a lot about semantics. It's an area that really fascinates me. But I was thinking about it especially this week because I saw a colleague's Facebook video where they were talking about semantics, but they focused on a different part of it. So they were talking about when a lot of people say, I need to spend more time doing this, or I need to take more time doing this, or I need to make more time doing this, and how we should change some of those word choices. And my instinct was to say, yes, absolutely, we need to get rid of that word need and replace it with choose. Otherwise, we're telling our subconscious to constantly keep us in a state where we always need something, and that's not good. But this person actually chose to look at the words make and take and spend. And it was a different approach to it. And I do agree with what this person said, that yes, we can't make time, we can't take time, and we can't actually spend time. It's not a currency. So he suggested changing that to the word devote or dedicate. I need to devote time to, I need to dedicate time to. And I think that's a good start, okay? Because devote and dedicate are positive action words. But again, we need to get rid of that need, because we don't want to be in a place of needing. We want to be in a place of action, of choice. So my suggestion would be to change that to, I choose to devote time to cooking healthy meals, for example, right? So this is what got me thinking about semantics this week. And I thought I always kind of reference this idea, which is a really big part of my philosophy, that thoughts do become things. But I guess I want to really drive it home in this episode. It's kind of like every thought that we have is actually an affirmation, okay? Because like I said, that 4-year-old in your subconscious just goes yes to whatever you say. So whatever you say, the subconscious will affirm, whatever you say in your mind or out loud. So what is an affirmation? Okay, so I wanted to be very explicit with this. So I went right to the Merriam-Webster dictionary and I looked up affirmation to get like a very specific definition. So definition of affirmation: the act or instance of affirming, a state of being affirmed, the assertion that something exists or is true. Okay, very important, to assert that it is true, to assert that it exists. If you want it to be your reality, you need to assert that it exists. If you want to be healthy, you need to say, I am healthy. You need to repeat, I am healthy, and not focus on the sickness, right? Something that is affirmed, a statement or proposition that is declared to be true. I love this part. This is straight out of the dictionary, right? An affirmation is something that you are declaring to be true. So when you say, I am strong, I am fit, I am healthy, I am in control of my life, you are declaring to your subconscious that truth. You are saying, I choose to be in control of my life. I choose to be healthy. I choose to have energy, right? And as you declare it to be true, the subconscious says, yes, okay. And it helps you to be healthy. It helps you to have energy, okay? Try it. You will see a difference. You will see a difference. So my question to you is to spend some time thinking about this. So how are your thoughts affecting your life? And specifically, the word choices that you make. There are broken records in our minds. Things that we repeat to ourselves all the time, over and over again. We call them our stories. What are the stories that we tell ourselves? Some common stories are things like, oh, I'm so broke, I'm never gonna have any money. Or, I'm never gonna find a date, why would anybody wanna go out with me? Or, I'll never be as good as my brother, he does everything perfectly. Right? These are stories that we tell ourselves. I just made up the stories, but those are examples of some common things that people tell themselves stories about. And sometimes we've been telling ourselves these same stories for so long that we actually can't remember when the stories were created, or even by whom the stories were created, because sometimes we actually didn't write our own stories. Sometimes those stories were written by that kid we couldn't stand in grade 4 who was part of that popular group and always teased us. Or maybe the story was written inadvertently by a parent who thought they were trying to do good, but accidentally had a negative effect on you because you misunderstood it when you were a child, right? So some of our stories go back a long way. And I want you I encourage you, not for me, for you, I encourage you to start listening to you. Start listening to the track of your own voice that is going through your head. Start listening to how you talk to yourself. Because what you will probably notice is that the things that you say are actually reflected in your life. So some examples of this, people who are sick often say in their head, oh, I feel awful, I'm so tired, this hurts, that hurts. And they often think it, and often they talk about it all the time, right? They're hurting, they want to be understood, so they focus on the hurt. They talk about the sickness, right? But unfortunately, it ends up becoming this self-fulfilling prophecy. When we constantly focus on the sickness, it gets reinforced by our subconscious. Okay, you want to be in pain? Here's more pain. Okay, you want to be sick? Here's more sick. Oh, you're tired? Okay, let's go to bed. Right? So it feels really difficult, and I want to validate this. It's hard. It is hard to recognize this and to take ownership of it. Like, it was a huge hurdle for me. And I want to be very, very, very clear. So clear. There is no blame here. There is no blame here. It is not your fault that you are sick. It is not my fault that I am sick. Because you can't be responsible for what you didn't understand. You didn't understand that your thoughts were affecting your reality, right? But now I'm opening a door, hopefully. I'm helping you understand that they are at least a contributing factor. And so instead of looking at it from a blame perspective, let's flip it around and look at it as an opportunity. An opportunity to start using this as a motivating tool, as a power that, oh, if I can actually program thoughts purposely and consciously with my mind and have them eventually start to show up in my reality, that's really cool. So what do I want? What kind of order do I want to put out there? Right? Because you really can, to a large extent, sort of order your life by the tendency of your thoughts. Tendency is an important word, right? By consciously and purposely thinking the things that you want over and over and over again, that is what you start to attract into your reality, okay? So if it's cool with you, we're going to do a little exercise. Now, you could just listen and not do the exercise, and you'll learn a little bit. You'll kind of get the idea, but you won't actually get any insight into your own self-talk unless you actually do the exercise. So my invitation to you right now is to find a pen and a little scrap of paper. You don't need very much. You're just going to write down a few words and get ready to actually actively participate in this little exercise, because I think it is really, really revealing. Okay. And if you can't find a pencil right now, you can always pause this and come back and listen to the rest of this episode in the archives. So here's what I want to do with this exercise. I'm going to give you some sentence starters. So I'm going to give you the first 2 words of a bunch of sentences, and I want you to write down the very first thing that comes to mind when thinking about yourself. And it's really important that there's no editing here. So what will often happen is one word will come into your mind and then you'll say, oh, no, that's not a good one. I don't think that's what is the right answer, or I don't want that to be the answer. So you choose something else and then you write that down. Well, that's a disservice to yourself because you're not actually going to learn about your subconscious, okay? So the very first word that comes to mind. All right, are we ready? So finish this sentence. I am. What is the first word that comes to mind? I am. Write it down, no censoring. It might be a single word or it might be a sentence. The next sentence. I always. I always. What do you always do? Next. I never. I never. What do you never do? The next sentence is, I will. I will. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think, I will? Next, I can. I can. What can you do? Second last one, I do. I do. And we're not talking about weddings here. So what do you do? And the last one, I have. I have. Okay, so now I want to talk about what the answers to these questions can tell you about your own self-talk. And I'm going to explain this by giving you an example. So I did this with 2 people. One person who is very unhealthy, okay, and very unhappy. And I did this with another person who is doing very well in their life, who's always smiling, is very happy, no health problems, okay? So here's what the first person said. I am fat. I always embarrass myself. I never finish anything. I will fail again. I can waste time. I do make mistakes. I have no control. So again, these answers came from someone who is in very poor health right now, who's really struggling in life and is quite unhappy. I then later did the same exercise with someone who, to my knowledge, has no health issues and who's someone who I see being very happy all the time. And these are the answers that that person gave me. I am worthy. I always forgive myself. I never give up. I will persevere. I can find new activities to enjoy. I do practice gratitude. I have the power to heal and recreate my life. Okay, so I kind of laugh at that one. I had just been talking to the person about my business, and that's kind of the tagline for Chronically Well Club is discover your power to heal and recreate your life. So yeah, very, very telling, right? The things that we tell ourselves show up in our lives. That's what it comes down to. And if you're interested in studying more about this, this is basically, there's a whole movement of people studying this, and it's called the New Thought movement. And it's basically this idea that thoughts become things, right? That our mind has a way of creating our reality because we attract things to and repel things from us based on the thoughts that we put out there. And when you really start to explore, you'll often find that this is very, very true. So, first of all, I want you to think about your own answers. If your own answers do not make you feel good, that's okay. I want you to attempt to release that negative feeling and replace it with a joyful, empowering feeling, because it means that you now know that you have the choice to replace those thoughts. So every time my friend says, I will embarrass myself, or I always embarrass myself, they can choose to consciously put up that stop sign and say, no, wrong. I replace that thought with, I always do things that I can be proud of, right? And when they hear themselves saying, I will fail, they can replace it with, no, I will succeed, okay? I can make positive use of my time. I forgive myself. I have control over my life. I am beautiful. All of these things, the more time we spend consciously thinking those things, the more we start to believe them, and belief is the key, right? And it might feel like you don't believe it at the beginning. That's okay. It's a gradual process of recognizing the thought that is not serving you and replacing it with a thought that does, okay? So here's some suggestions of how you can start. Write down your affirmations. There's a lot of science telling us that when we take the time to write down our affirmations and write down our goals, we have a hugely greater chance of believing them, experiencing them, realizing them. Okay, so take the time to write them down. Read them out loud. So you're then creating a memory, an auditory memory of hearing yourself saying it. And if you really want to go all out, record yourself. Use that little voice recorder on your phone and record yourself reading your affirmations that you already wrote out loud, and then listen to that audio file repeatedly. Listen again and again and again, and eventually you will believe. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you to fake it until you make it. Because the first time you tell yourself you're beautiful, I love you, you might laugh and think this is ridiculous and not believe it. But when you tell that to yourself all the time, your subconscious begins to believe it, and eventually, like contagion, your conscious mind starts to believe it as well. There are so many ways that this happens in life, right? When you're sad, you watch a funny movie, it changes your mood, right? Or you put on upbeat music to give you energy. It's the same thing. You're just changing the channel. You're changing the input. So here are some examples of affirmations. An affirmation should be in present tense, meaning starting with the word I. And they should be in first person, starting with the word I. And they should be in present tense, meaning you're saying that it's already here. You're celebrating that it's already here. Okay, so here are some examples. I take full responsibility for my health. I choose to acknowledge that my life is an accumulation of my choices and actions. I have clear boundaries and enforce them with ease. I prioritize my self-care. I play music every day because it challenges my mind and feeds my soul. I am grateful for the love and support of my family, friends, and community. So those are some examples of affirmations that I wrote for myself about things that I specifically want to reinforce in my life. Do I play music every day? Little secret between you and I. Most days, but some days my piano goes untouched. But I'm not going to consciously think, I missed my piano lesson again today, right? Because that's going to reinforce the idea that I'm not doing it, right? So I tell myself I play music every day, and I remind myself about how it feels, right? If we can bring it back to emotion, we're motivated and we're more likely to achieve something, right? So I don't just say I play music every day, I say I play it every day because it challenges my brain and it feeds my soul. And that way I remember how cool it feels to really be challenging my cognition, developing those neural pathways, and at the same time expressing my musicality and really activating my spiritual side as well through the music. So the more I think about that feeling, like my piano is right next to me right now, and I can tell you that I am going to play as soon as I'm done recording this episode, because I've gotten back in touch with that amazing feeling that I get from playing. Okay, so how do you write your own affirmations? As I said, it's first person, so starting with I, it's present tense, and start by making it the opposite of what it is that you want to change about yourself. So let's say, for example, you're always late. Okay, you're always late. So instead of having a broken record in your brain of, oh, I'm always rushing. Oh, why do I always wait till the last minute? Oh, I'm always late. Oh, I'm never going to get there on time. Right? Stop the thought in the moment and replace it. I manage my time efficiently. I travel peacefully because I always leave with plenty of time. I arrive early and prepared because I know that early is on time. Right? So consciously, purposefully affirming what it is you want rather than what it is that you have right now. Here's an example related to health. So again, maybe we people with MS often, can be clumsy sometimes because we don't have very good motor coordination, especially when we're tired, right? So maybe at the end of the day, you're really tired, you knock something over. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm so tired and clumsy, stop that thought and affirm. I am full of energy and I move purposefully and with grace. And say it 10 times. Say it 10 times and you will actually feel that burst of energy. All right, so those are my ideas for today on the topic of semantics. So I'm going to wrap up here. You can find out more information about me, Rebecca Naylor, and Chronically Well Club by checking out my main website, www.chronicallywell.club. From that main website, you can find links to my Facebook page and my Instagram page and my YouTube channel where I record lots of videos and share lots of free resources. You can also find links to some of the amazing tools that I share with my clients who have MS, including doTERRA essential oils, which are amazing. I teach a lot about how they can help with MS symptoms, and also Vox Life neurostimulating technology that is really amazing for balance, energy, and all sorts of things like that. So if you have questions about working with me as a coach, maybe having a home health audit here in Toronto, I take bookings for workshops and public speaking, I would be happy to answer any of your questions. So reach out to me. My email address is rebecca@chronicallywell.club. That's REBECCA @chronicallywell.club. I'd love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your questions. If there's a way I can help you through this process, please don't hesitate to reach out. So for now, everyone, create an amazing day for yourselves and be well.